women are from Venus and men are from Mars. However, technology has brought about modern egalitarianism, which has some feeling like women jump to Mercury and men jump to Jupiter. Temperature references are purely coincidental. Whether you call it gender wars or defining new gender roles, we are clearly at a point. With movements on Reddit ascribing red-colored medication and comparably hashtags on social media making refuse declarations about men, it's fair to say we're just trying to make sense of it all. Enter Kevin Samuels, an image consultant, former corporate sales representative, fragrance enthusiast turned internet phenom. I've heard him referred to as a therapist, something he's very quick to refute, life coach, matchmaker, and even a guru. I refer to him as more of a social critic, perceptively aware and exceptionally quick. His rise to popularity has been met with praise and condemnation. However, one thing all sides can agree upon is his exceptional boldness. Today's parallel looks to explore a few themes. First and foremost, boldness. Fortune favors the bold, as the old Latin saying goes. The concept of being bold in our endeavors, as well as bold in our behaviors, has been a proven tenet of a fruitful life. Today's parallel is proof that being bold can sometimes be an intentional mental decision, or equally, fate can propel us to have a bold outlook by default. Today's main theme of boldness illustrates how implementing boldness in your life is not only achieved directly through your direct interactions, but also in the way we choose to coexist with one another. A life of boldness can serve to leave you and your loved ones a legacy which will reverberate for many years after you and provide your life the necessary impact that gives your existence meaning. Secondly, I have an exciting treat for you. I'm going to reveal to you the ancient format to which the Kevin Samuels Show has been following. Be it intentional or a happy accident, today you will learn the ancient genre and its principles and how Kevin Samuels implements them throughout his performance, and why perhaps even on an evolutionary level, it has been proven to grip audiences throughout millennia. Hence why, whether you're a man or a woman, you can't stop watching his show. After all, if there is one thing Parallel Continuum will continue to prove, is that human beings are creatures of habit, even throughout the ages. And finally, we will parallel this ancient genre and its performers to a current new group of creators / lifestyle philosophers, the Manosphere. Now, I'm going to pause here and put a small caveat. Today's parallel will dive a little deeper than what we normally plan for. Parallel Continuum deep dives are normally reserved for live streams. However, while this won't be as intense as a live stream, it certainly will be a notable degree deeper than our regular parallels. So I implore you to stay with us. It's certainly going to be worth it. Now, Kevin Samuels studied chemical engineering at the University of Oklahoma, until unfortunately he fell sick with cancer. This affected his studies, but thankfully Kevin beat the cancer. After beating the cancer, he decided to strike out on life and try and figure it all out. According to him, he had various blue-collar and unskilled labor, such as waiting tables, amongst other things. Kevin's corporate career started as a business development manager in the retail company, Office Depot. He spent 3.5 years there, and according to him, he performed well, finding and developing a hidden talent in himself, communication. In July 2009, he left Office Depot and joined the media company iDirk Media, now known today as Super Media. He served as an inside advertising internet sales representative for over 2 years, before resigning in September 2011. Kevin then worked as a senior media consultant in the marketing and advertising company YP, The Real Yellow Pages, where again he remained in the role for over 2 years. This is where he really excelled. Responsible for a 7-figure number, he developed a team in his own image, of which exceeded the company's expectations. By Kevin's accounts, it was a good time, He stepped down in January of 2013 and formed his own image consulting company, self-titled Kevin Samuels. This was after a female business client had asked him for some advice regarding an upcoming opportunity. She had noted the way Kevin had always presented himself and asked him for some insight. Kevin formed his company on the back of the interaction and undertook further training in image. The company is now based in Atlanta and provides services like image and brand integration, media and job interview coaching, and wardrobe styling. Kevin Samuels also has a self-titled YouTube channel he launched in 2015. While the channel grew steadily, initially giving fragrance advice, his channel shifted focus. For 3 years, the channel was largely centered on personal and career growth for men, as well as interpersonal and relationship skills. He then included women in the discussion, and
you're average looking at best,
and viral stardom catapulted him into conversations around the world. Kevin Samuels' show has gone from fragrance discussions to a straight-talking, upfront and direct show, combating modern relationships and much more. Kevin lambasts the modern state of affairs, leaving little room for intuitivity or subjectivity. He is hardline on data sets and historical analysis. This has created a following which has launched him into mainstream success. The social following of millions has had an impact and seems to have people hooked. His talking points have been praised for their frank and honest nature. Naturally, many people have also criticized and lambasted his approach. He has been accused of profanity and insults, lack of empathy, rudeness, and the perpetuation of a negative image for some groups. Right, so it's fair to say Kevin Samuels is a corporate man. Having also worked in corporate myself for over 8 years, I certainly recognize the tone of the sales guy, especially the lead sales guy, hardline on the bottom line and driven to a number. I don't think it's a reach to suggest that that element has been implemented in the manner in which he diagnoses and addresses relationship issues on his show. Figuratively, and in some cases, literally, Kevin Samuels has a bottom line approach when dealing with the topic of relationships and marriage. For example, his declaration of marriage being less about love and romance and more about duty certainly is a traditional and firm mandate from the senior corporate executive / social critic. And on that note, Archilochus was a soldier / poet. He was born sometime around 680 BC in Paros, Greece. Now, the combination of a soldier poet certainly is an unusual combination. However, on record, he is the earliest Greek writer of an ancient Greek poetry genre called Iambus. Poets of that age were unquestionably one of the most notable social critics. Now, some were better than others. However, Archilochus, by no stretch of the imagination, was an average poet. He was intensely revered in ancient Greece. It's said he is only to be mentioned in the same breath as Homer and Hesiod. Archilochus certainly fell from the high-value tree. His father was a wealthy Parian who founded a colony on the island of Thasos. The details of Archilochus' life in the ancient biographical tradition are derived for the most part from his poems. Therefore, it's often difficult to ascertain exactly what parts are biographical. One thing that is certainly agreed upon is that he was a raw pragmatist with a bold view on life, even if his statements flew in the face of norms of his time. Arguably, this can be attributed to his career. Archilochus, as mentioned before, served as a soldier. According to ancient tradition, he fought against the Thracians on the mainland near Thasos, in support of the colony his father had founded there. However, even in his job role, he remained remarkably pragmatic. You may think an ancient Greek soldier poet would be famous for writing poems about dying in blazes of glory. In fact, it's the opposite. In one of his famous poems, Archilochus remarks without embarrassment or regret of throwing away his shield in battle.
I saved my life. What do I care about my shield? The hell with it, I'll buy another just as good.
For this famous and bold statement, it's been said he was banned by the famous Spartans. Those of you who have had the pleasure of watching the movie 300 can imagine why. In some fragments, Archilochus mentions bribing the enemy in contrast to fighting when not necessary. He saw little point in dying needlessly. In one fragment, he even explains that dying valiantly is useless because no one enjoys respect or reputation once he's dead. According to the poet, people only tend to the living. Now, based on that, you could be forgiven for thinking that Archilochus was a poor soldier. However, you would be mistaken. Part of his name, Archos, means leader, and Locos, meaning men of ambush. This could signify that Archilochus may have been some sort of military leader during his time. Certainly, his career as a soldier features prominently in his work. He is questionably credited for the famous quote,
«Την μεν της ημετέρας προσδοκίας στάθμην ου καταλαμβάνομεν, αλλά δε εις την στάθμην της Παρασκευής πίπτομεν. We don't rise to the level of our expectations, we fall to the level of our training».
A quote often referenced in Navy SEAL training. Archilochus was a member of the Parian elites, high-ranking men led by example in those days, and Archilochus clearly had a good deal of experience when it came to fighting in battle. Fighting was simply a way of life for Archilochus. He refers to himself as a servant to Enyalios, a war god. It's true, he remained pragmatic in how he chose to engage in battles, unusual for ancient Greek soldiers of that time, but nonetheless, he was a bold soldier. He lived his career. In one fragment, Archilochus states,
«Ενδωρεί μεν μη μάζα με μαγμένη, ενδωρεί δε ίνος εις μαρικός, πίνω δε ενδωρεί και κλειμένος. On my spear's my daily bread, on my spear my wine from Ismaros, and drinking it, it's on my spear I recline».
The fragment combines feasting, bread and wine, with fighting, the spear, and could signify the elite social circles in which he moved, as both feasting and fighting were in archaic Greece a part of the aristocratic way of life. Archilochus was, quote, unquote, a high-value man.
Θυμαία μηχάνηση κίδεση, κηκόμενη ανάδη, δυσμενών δε αλέξεη προσβαλών, εναντίον στέρνων ενδόκηση, εχθρών πλήσιων κατασταθείς ασφαλέως, και μήτεν εικόνα αμφάδεν αγάλεο, μήτεν οικηθείς εν οίκο κατά πεσόν οδύρεο, αλλά χαρτίσιτε χαίρε, και κακέσιας χάλα μη λύειν, γίγνος και δε, ίος ρισμός ανθρώπους έχει.
Now, I'm going to break here to point out a couple of things. We have two men here driven by the bottom line. Archilochus is bold enough to go against the grain during his time period. He goes to the length of describing conventional and unconventional ways of achieving victory, be it through combat or bribery, or indeed just choosing to fight another day. Outcomes are a strong point to him. Contrast that with Kevin's bottom line approach, especially regarding his corporate career. He's given the advice and made no secrets about the sacrifices it takes to win. For example, simply cutting your hair to conform to an appropriate image just to land an opportunity, even if it makes you feel uncomfortable. Or the relationships you develop in the corporate world and the secrets you have to keep, such as your boss's favorite working girl. According to him, these all aid you in having friends in high places. The outcome is what you're after. We can feel Archilochus' career as a soldier and the blunt, bold, hard truths in his works, even if they fly in the face of normality of those times. Certainly, it was unusual for a soldier, especially back then, to admit running, much less a leader. Nevertheless, he was honest and bold in his performance. The same can be said for Kevin. His career experience can certainly be felt in his show. His boldness in his statements and declarations have often left men and women alike in shock and awe. Another important point to reference Archilochus and his works is his criticism. He was particularly famous for his sharp satire and ferocious tongue. It's been said that a man named Lycums promised his daughter Niobule to the poet. However, her father went back on his word. Enraged, it said Archilochus seduced the sister of Niobule, after which he so publicly ferociously lashed the family with his tongue. According to the ancient accounts, Lycums and his daughter committed suicide. shamed by the poet's fierce mocking. Now, this particular epode about Archilochus' life obviously has been questioned. One thing all his contemporaries agreed is that it illustrated how ferocious his tongue could really be. Unforgiving wittiness and a fiery tongue can be a trait sometimes commonplace in social critics.
With ankles that fat, it must be a girl.
Big Shirley.
She is a common woman for rent, but what sensuality and fat ankles, oh, fat for hire.
How tall are you?
I'm 5'5".
Dress size.
7.
How much did you weigh the last time you weighed yourself?
170. I also have a 25-inch waist. I had people pursue
Of course.
me for a relationship.
Yes. No, they pursue you for sex.
Okay.
They didn't pursue you to be married. They did not pursue you for being a wife.
Old women should not seek to be perfumed.
The biggest cohort of people that dislike me are women in no man's land. Those women 36 to 60 years old. This is what their future looks like, because who is he to say you're going to die alone? And da.
Now, before I go on, I'm going to stop and be very clear here. I do not believe Kevin Samuels, or indeed anybody in the Manosphere, agree entirely with all of Archilochus' works, much of which I will not cover or quote due to sensitivities. It should be mentioned, some of Archilochus' poems, even for his times, were viewed as salacious. And in referencing a few quotes, this is by no means an indictment or praise, for that matter, on Kevin Samuels or indeed anybody else in the Manosphere. We're simply making some parallels to how strong and direct the performances of both shows are in their respective times. And in respect to the show, we fall into the genre of Iambus. Observing Kevin Samuels' show had a familiar tone. The more I watched, the more I recognized the principles of Iambus in play. I'd often hear and observe Kevin Samuels making reference to Greek mythology, which also informed me he was at least aware and knowledgeable of the ancient Greek period to a degree. Whether he has implemented them intentionally or by mere luck, the principles are obvious for those who recognize them. This format has been known and proven to entertain the human race for millennia. Now I hear you asking, what is Iambus and what are its principles? Iambus is an ancient genre of Greek poetry. The first evidence we have of an iambic poet is the man himself, Archilochus, said by most to be the father of the genre. The genre featured insulting and obscene language. It's sometimes referred to as blame poetry. Now, the first element and the most common element in all iambus is blame, drawing attention to dangerous or unsuitable behaviors.
Is PMS caused by modern men? Are modern women in denial about fitness? Are modern women delusional?
I need you guys who are beta males to understand something. Beta with beta traits. You're doomed. Your life is going to be transactional sex with prostitutes at best.
Are modern women entitled? Are modern women the walking dread? Are modern women lacking the ability to accept facts, figure, data, statistics, and observable reality?
The second element of Iambus is that it's addressed to an audience with shared values and customs, which are represented as under threat. For example, companions. Whatever its real composition, the audience is cast in the role as mutual friends, and their friendships are asserted in various and interesting ways.
For people who don't know my channel, I talk about men need to be CIA, confident, intelligent, and assertive. Women should be FBI, feminine, beautiful, inspirational, okay? When you hear me throwing around a term called Henry is an acronym that stands for high earner, not rich yet. So all my boys, all my guys, they're out, working, grinding. Number one, in order to be a high value man, it starts with money. And the line is roughly at $10,000 a month Number 2, that money needs to be made over a length of time, and that's roughly about 5 years. The Henrys, high earners not rich yet, broken down into 2 categories. Blake Henry. Blake Henry's the white collar guy. Blake stands for Brad, Lee, Ahmed, Keith, and Enrique. Black, Asian, Middle Eastern, black, white, Asian, Middle Eastern, black, and Hispanic. Blake, B-L-A-K-E. Number 3 is group acceptance. Why is group acceptance so important? Because the next part, a network. You have to have a network of other high-value men and others. After the network, we got to have the visibility.
CIA. What does CIA mean? CIA is confident, intelligent, arrogant.
Henry, high earner, not rich yet. Blake Henry's white collar. Blue Henry's the blue collar Henry. I had a whole program about blue collar men. Go check it out. Hit squads stand for Henry in Training. That's the background.
The third element of Iambus is that the poet, speaking in his own person, might criticize someone directly, whether a group member or an outsider.
The size of, I'm sorry, you're 5'8"?
I'm 5'8".
You're about the size of Emmitt Smith or Barry Sanders was. You're running back size. You can hit the A gap like a.
Yeah, all right.
So don't come in here and talk about what men should not be able to do when they got to accept somebody who can run out the power I.
To jail.
Oh, so you pick swoopers and felons. And then you're gonna complain about what other. I need you to stop right here, ma'am. I need you to slow the whole. I need you to slow the whole French toast down. I'm not gonna let you get on here and talk about what black men are not when you picking dudes that whoop your ass and are felons.
She said, "Do you have woman issues?" And I'm like, "Do you have people questioning whether you were naturally born a woman?" It's the real question. Oh my God. I bet you she got a mean left hook. Y'all ever see the movie Saw? Y'all remember the movie Saw? In Jigsaw? Jigsaw has those round circles on his face and then those sharp ass features. Looking like Jigsaw.
On a scale from 1 to 10, how tall are you?
I'm 5'10".
5'10". How much do you weigh? Uh-oh.
I weigh about,
2 what?
depending on the day, between 280 to 285.
So you're a fat
And the fourth element of Iambus is that the poet might act out the role of someone guilty of misconduct, condemning himself in his own words.
Think about how marriage, submission, anaphylactic shock, cooperation with a man, anaphylactic shock, relationship, anaphylactic shock. I gotta do what? What? You mean either I gotta buy a dog or die alone or get a man? Anaphylactic shock.
Want me to pick you up a smoothie on the way back? What is a smoothie? She got you drinking smoothies. My son eats mashed potatoes and fried chicken. Well, we do that too, but gotta keep him in shape. All right, hon. See you in a bit. Nice seeing you, Mama Shirley.
And finally, the fifth element of Iambus is that the poet might tell a story, combining self-indictments with a narrative account of misconduct.
The Queen of Average. The Husband Store. This is the mind of an Eternal Seven. A brand new store has just opened in New York City that sells husbands. When women go to choose a husband, they must be able to abide by the following instructions. You may visit this store only once. There are 6 floors, and the attributes of the men increase as the shopper ascends. There is, however, one catch. You may choose any men from a particular floor, or you may choose to go up to the next floor, but you cannot go back down except to exit the building. Those are the rules. So, a woman goes into the husband's store to find her husband. On the first floor, the sign reads, Floor 1. These men have jobs and love kids. Looks around and says, oh, great, have jobs and love kids. But she decides to, instead of picking a man here, go up to floor 2 because the quality of men keeps ascending as she goes up. She knows the rules. Time is ticking. The second floor reads, these men have jobs, love kids, and love God. She likes this floor, but instead her curiosity is getting the better of her. Floor 1 was good, floor 2 was better, gotta see floor 3. Floor 3 reads, these men have jobs, love kids, love God, and are extremely good looking. Jackpot, floor 3. But if this is what's happened by floor 3, what do you think happens? She keeps on going. Wow, she thinks. But she feels compelled to keep going, so she goes to the 4th floor and the sign reads, these men have jobs, love kids, love God, are drop dead gorgeous, and will help with housework. That's on the 4th floor. 2 floors left, but on the 4th floor. Oh, mercy me, she exclaims. I can hardly believe it, but still. She goes to the 5th floor and the sign reads, these men have jobs, love kids, love God, are drop dead gorgeous, help with housework, and have a strong romantic streak. They can put it down, and they're romance guys. She is so tempted to stay. But then she goes to the 6th floor and the sign reads, you are visitor number 4,363,012 to this floor. There are no men on this floor. This floor exists solely as proof that women are impossible to please. Thank you for shopping the husband store. Goodbye. Now, if you've never heard that joke, there's a joinder to it. To avoid gender bias, the same company opens a store called the Wife Store. Same rules apply. Men go into the store. The 1st floor reads, these wives love to have sex. The 2nd floor reads, the guy goes on up to the 2nd floor. The floor reads, the 2nd floor, these wives love to have sex and have money. The joke varies, but you get the point. Floors 3 through 6 have never been used. What is the purpose of that story? That story basically crystallizes the Eternal 7 dilemma.
Another important thing to note is the time periods as to when Iambus has proven popular throughout the millennia. It's important to recognize that Iambus tended to be popular during political or social change, i.e. egalitarianism of gender roles. Now, as mentioned before, Kevin Samuels may have been performing Iambus completely by chance, and this could all be a happy accident. However, he has made some references to Greek mythology on his show, particularly Sisyphus.
You can cut this Gordian knot, or you can solve the riddle of the Sphinx, or do this, or do that, or do this, or do that, or do this. And then, once you figure out the Rubik's Cube of me, then I will give you my 35, 36, 34, 39-year-old womb. You win! Wait a minute, but he got it back then when it was 24 and, what? I gotta be fucking Sisyphus up in this piece? Just for you to have sex with me? Hercules' 12 labors is what I gotta do. Now that you are in no man's land. And you've been around these guys like Icarus flying too close to the sun. These guys who you've been around for the longest, who liked you.
Another loose coincidence is his history in Greek life from university, particularly Kappa Alpha Psi. They could cover ancient Greek practices within the fraternity given the name. However, this is all speculative. And to be honest, I think it would be great to hear from the man himself on whether iambic influences have indeed impacted his show. Iambus as a genre can be felt throughout the Manosphere. Creators such as Anthony Johnson, O'Shea Duke Jackson, Fresh and Fit, and so many more all have traits and elements of Iambus and other genres in their performances. If you would like to learn more about the genre of Iambus, check out the resources in the description. And if you'd like content around more parallels surrounding the Manosphere and relative performances, let me know in the comments. Kevin's show has certainly gripped the world, with thousands tuning into his show every week, some condemning the show and others praising performances and talking points. Equally, Archilochus was just as polarizing. He was criticized by renowned poet Pindar, accused of, quote,
growing fat on dire words of hatred.
On the other hand, notable commenters of his work such as Quintilian heaped praise upon the poet, quote,
we find in him the greatest force of expression, sententious statements that are not only vigorous but also tense and vibrant.
But the important thing to take away from all parties in today's parallel is boldness. Boldness to speak. Boldness not to die with their ideas. Boldness to put their perspectives out there in the world. Boldness to be unafraid and go against the grain. And equally important, boldness for the audience to potentially coexist with an opposing opinion or outlook. Archilochus certainly in his time was a controversial figure, but his work still coexisted with those who disagreed with him. And you, yes you, have almost certainly indirectly enjoyed his impact. Our poet is considered by many to be the father of satire. You can find Archilochus' impact in Greek philosophers and playwrights that succeeded him. You can find him in Renaissance literature and philosophy. And French poets, playwrights, and philosophers have all noted the impact of Archilochus. The impact of Iambus can arguably be seen in Aristophanic comedy, which has also influenced Shakespeare. And Shakespeare's impact can be felt, well, switch on your Netflix account and pick a movie. Being bold enough to speak our opinion gives us the opportunity to be immortal. Being bold enough to coexist with differing opinions gives us the opportunity to evolve. Being bold enough to do both is what makes us human. Well, thanks guys for watching, and your feedback will be greatly appreciated. I do really appreciate the fact that you guys take the time to stop and observe what parallels we come up with. In creating the show, I took some of the things I like most in life, combining my love for life and its lessons, what I call R&P, research and procrastination, old cartoons like DBZ, Boondocks and South Park, and voila. Hopefully we can R&P together. Please subscribe to the channel and join me on upcoming live stream where I intend to interact with you guys, yes you guys, in real time. This show is nothing without you guys. It's all about sharing what we discover on Google and other websites, not while you're in incognito mode, however. Seriously though, your involvement is critical for upcoming topics. If you have any suggestions on things you'd like to add or anything I've missed, please get involved in the comments or check out the description for contact details, socials and all that other good stuff. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Hit that notification bell. Apparently that's very important around here, and I will see you guys next time.
Let me say what's been on my mind.
So the two of you started first doing business back in the year of 2016. So it was 2016 when the two of you first started interacting with each other. So you say it was in the year of 2015 when you guys first met. Now see right there? You know you done f***ed up, right?